Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is actually the Piracy Show. It is not the Inforunners show. So, if you saw me on the Inforunners, I believe it was on Sunday, then you know that we discussed Pyro to a certain extent. And Pyro is something that I would like to go into a little bit more depth on. What I expect, what I think is going to emerge out of Pyro, what I think CIG is going to do broadly with Pyro, and I'm gonna make some guesses. I'm gonna make some judgment calls. I'm gonna reach for some of these things, but hopefully, you're gonna kind of see what I'm saying and what I think is really going to emerge out of Pyro. So we're gonna be going in deep on a lot of things. First off, what is the Pyro system? The Pyro system is a lawless system. It is claimed by no one. It is basically a ruin of a former, heavy-duty mining establishment that came in and basically strip mined the entire area. Now, on the Inforunners, of course, we referred to the fact that there's probably going to be valuable ores in this location. And yes, I do believe that there's still going to be leftovers. I don't think that it's going to be something that, say, Shubin would come in and mine, because the area is lawless and there just may not be any value left to it. They've already cleaned out the planets, so what's the point of sticking around for this, what they would consider scraps, but we as players and moles and prospectors and things like that would consider still very, very valuable. If you look at what players are making with a rock in Stanton right now, extrapolate that to like a mole and working in a system that is lawless and a lot more dangerous, there's probably going to be much more valuable minerals there, or higher concentrations of the much more valuable minerals from a player business scale point of view. So it's going to be a very valuable system. Now, what can you expect when you first get into Pyro? Now, we know that Pyro has a place called Ruin Station. This is the main base of piracy, and I very much expect that this is going to be something of a Levski, but on a far, far grander scale. Now, the icon for Ruin Station, I'm using this image right here from CIG's demo last year, because it very much has that kind of ring base appearance on the map that you see in the background there. But do I think that that's what Ruin Station is going to be? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, no, I don't think that Ruin Station is entirely going to look like that. Potentially, but I think what CIG is going to do with Ruin Station is they're going to basically double dip off of all the work that they're doing on Squadron 42. And I'm going to show you what I think maybe Ruin Station is going to look like. Now, this is Archon Base. This is the base in the Odin system that you see in the vertical slice demo. This is the Shubin's big mining base located right next to the coil. I feel that chances are what Ruin Station is going to do, or it's going to be, is CIG is basically going to use the work that they've developed, or the work that they've done to create Archon Base, and they're basically going to make a trashier, abandoned version of Archon Base, and that is what Ruin Station is going to be. This is, when we talk about things like, Squadron 42 has just got to get done and got to get out of the way, but, we don't get really all that mad about it, because we know that a lot of this stuff is going to translate into the persistent universe. I think this is going to be one of those things. I think that Ruin Station is going to be Archon Base, but just a trashed out, kind of abandoned looking version of it. So kind of like Grimhex and Levski, but on a far grander scale. Because remember, at one time, this was a huge hub for, industrial scale mining. That has been abandoned, but the infrastructure has probably just been left behind, and the pirates have taken it over. So I think that this is pretty much what Ruin Station is going to look like, just a lot trashier. Now, in the 2016 video where they discussed, in Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they discussed the Pyro system, Shri Heiberg makes reference to the fact that there's a couple of pirate factions that are always kind of vying for control. And I think that as you get there as a pirate player, what's going to happen is you're going to be talking to either a Tisha Pacheco or a Rudo, and they're going to send you to meet somebody over in Pyro. And then as a pirate player or as a mercenary, whatever, you're going to be able to kind of pick a side in this conflict. That'll make some things hostile to you and other things friendly to you. You may choose to go hostile against both if you're like a lawful good type player. But, you know, if you're a pirate or a smuggler or something, you may, out of convenience, pick one faction or the other, depending on what you're doing and what they specialize in. So I think that that is going to be something that plays out in the persistent universe. That's going to be a choice that you make. Maybe you get to roll back on it. I don't know. But that, for a pirate player, is what I think you're going to see at Ruin Station. One of the reasons that you go there is one player, one character or another is going to say, hey, I know somebody in that system. They're looking for someone like you. You go there and you basically cast your lot with one group or the other. Now, the Pyro system itself, it makes sense that CIG is kind of building this system. And the first reason is because we have a lawful controlled system now with Stanton. One of the things that we talked about was the fact that there's penalties, but there's no pirate gameplay really in Star Citizen right now. And though I think we are going to get things like tractor beams, of course, and the ability to scoop up cargo from captured or disabled ships and things like that, the penalties in Stanton are designed to be excessive because they kind of want to drive this activity underground. Now, does this mean that pirates are going to be always trying to invade Stanton? I don't think so. I think that what's going to happen is pirates are going to be fencing their goods in Stanton that they picked up in Pyro or in other systems. And I think that the real pirate gameplay is not going to involve, pirate fleets trying to invade Stanton or lawful players trying to invade Pyro. People are going to kind of leave that conduit because it's a conduit not only for legal players to get around the universe, and we'll get to that in a second, but it's going to be a conduit for pirates to really get value out of the goods that they've stolen. At some point, it has to go to a place where you can turn it into real money. And I think that that is going to be one of the major sources of revenue for pirate players in Star Citizen. You heard us allude to the fact that many of us have alt accounts, some of which was Star Runners or ships like that. And very much that is one of the things that many pirates discuss is, how do we fence our goods? Who do we take them to? And do we need an unattached account that comes in very quickly, picks up a few crates, and then shoots back to Stanton and makes the money? Takes it to a place like Samson and Sons or Brio's Breaker Yard where the infrastructure is already there to fence goods. We have those little interaction panels where we can sell the things that are on our ship. Once we get reputation with pirate factions, we're probably going to have these places permanently marked on our map once we've proven ourselves to be the right sort of people. For the pirate factions, they'll say, oh, no, here's a data disk. This shows you where everything is in Stanton that you need to sell. And this shows you a few hidden locations in Pyro that you may want to know about. Now, previously I had referred to this as a conduit, and I don't think that people are going to blockade it. If you look at the star map right now, we have the Odin system, the Nyx system. Next to that, we have Pyro right there, and then right next to it, Stanton. All these systems connect to one another in a line. The Odin system is a system that is being built for Squadron 42. Now, I don't really zoom out that much right here, but you'll see it a little bit later. You can actually see the portal to Nyx, which goes on to Odin. CIG has already built Odin. That is in Squadron 42. They've put so many features into that system. The coil, Archon base, Shubin mining, all that stuff. They've already built all that stuff, and they have shown it to us. So I feel that what CIG is going to do is they're going to go for systems like Pyro and Nyx next, and then they're going to connect that to Odin, and then from there you're going to get systems like Terra and so on and so forth. I feel that that's going to be, how this all develops outwards. Beyond that, though, what CIG's priorities are going to be, probably Terra, and then from there on, I don't know. I couldn't even possibly guess. So as players are using this as a transit to these other systems like Odin and whatnot, you're probably not going to find too many groups hanging around those main kind of jump points thinking, I'm going to pirate someone as soon as they come out of that gate, because you never know really what's going to be coming out of that gate. A few people may do it, but ultimately there, you could see the Nyx portal way off there in the distance. But realistically, you never know what's coming through that gate. So all of a sudden a javelin could come through with a full fleet with it, and you might be SOL. So I don't think that you're going to see too many people trying to control those gates. And I think that it's going to be more, the pirates aren't going to stick around on the highway. They're going to be lurking in the shadows. Now, just before I move back to this image, I was showing you the Akiro cluster, which is an asteroid field in in Pyro. That is probably where you're going to find a fair amount of mineable minerals. But there's also plenty of planets in the system that might have a few scraps left. There's plenty of places for players to go. So I don't think that when you're talking about a play area on such a grand scale, I don't think that you really have to overly worry about, there's going to be a pirate behind every asteroid or in every gas cloud. But generally, I think that is where the pirates are going to lurk. This is what I think that pirates are going to end up doing, is they're going to be playing around with a lot of sensor gameplay, using a lot of environmental hazards to kind of mask themselves and hide themselves. And they're going to be looking for people who are ill prepared and over eager to kind of get into mining in Pyro, and they may actually let them mine up a full load and then sweep in and take that load away from them. Something like that. I don't think it's going to be quite as some people do imagine combat with pirates to be, as these grand fleet battles, between the UEE Navy and pirates. I think that pirates are going to operate on a much more subtle level than that. So very much I do believe that Pyro is going to be kind of a vague reflection, a yin to Stanton's yang. It's going to be a place where if you're a legitimate law-abiding player, you walk into Stanton, you know where all the major legal places are right away, you're good. But if you're a pirate, you have to kind of find the illegal places. But in Pyro, I think it's going to be the inverse. As you meet people, as you build up rep, you're going to become aware of many more permanent locations, and you're going to have beacons to quantum to those locations, be it on the surface of a planet or hidden away in a gas cloud, things like that. I think that is going to be as an opposite to Stanton. That is going to be how it is. A legal player or a law-abiding player stepping into the Pyro system is probably only going to see Ruin Station and a few points of interest, and unless they actually build up the rep with the pirates, they're not going to know about too much else. I feel that is very much how that is going to happen. So, enter at your own risk. So when Pyro does open up, I do think that you're going to see a mass exodus of pirate players getting into there and working on those reputation systems that we've been hearing about, building up knowledge of the system, finding all the ins and the outs of the Pyro system. And for the players who haven't maybe committed any crimes in Stanton and therefore don't have a relationship with people like Tisha Pacheco or Rudo, they're going to find that maybe they haven't really, maybe they're just not set up to find out or to, access these things. And it may be that way, they'll be able to go to Ruin Station, they'll be able to buy things, they'll be able to go out and they'll be able to mine, but the overall lay of the land will probably remain something of a mystery to them, which is kind of a cool thing, I think. Now, I would like to end off this video with something of a request. A while ago, while we were looking at ArcCorp, CIG kind of showcased some of the landing pads on the top of the buildings. It was a very early version of ArcCorp before we even had access to it. And, they were telling us at some point you'll be able to, I guess, buy a condo or rent an apartment in one of these buildings, and that'll be your landing pad. That's where you live, and that's where you store all your goods, and that's where you take off from. Cool. Great. In Pyro, however, obviously, in a system that's been so heavily mined, there's going to be a lot of way stations, a lot of grim hexes that existed at one point or another, things like that, or maybe even things on a smaller scale. You remember when we used to have only the old hangar, Star Citizen was nothing but a hangar tool, and we could only tour our ships in there. We couldn't fly them. We couldn't do anything like that yet. One of the bases that I really liked was the asteroid base, and as a place potentially in the future for players to hang their hat in the Pyro system, a little hidden, forgotten prospecting base somewhere in one of these asteroid fields or, gas clouds, whatever, in some hazardous little spot would be a pretty cool place, I think, to hang your hat if you're a pirate. So maybe we can reuse some of the old hangar module stuff and build something cool for housing in Pyro. Maybe a little hidden location that only you know about, a vendor that you can go and speak to. That'll give you a